We are exploring together some of the promises that God gives us in Psalm 23. And Psalm 23 is this beautiful picture of a sheep and a shepherd and the sheep. And we've come to the third set of promises found in this book. We're going to look at verses 3 and 4 today. He restores my soul, and he guides me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Now, this is a promise from God that he will restore our soul. To restore something presupposes that it needs restoration, that it's broken down or it's tattered or whatever and needs to be restored. I think of old furniture that someone restores so that it can be used as it was once used. Maybe a car. Maybe you're into auto repair or restoration of an old vehicle. And you take that old vehicle that maybe has been sitting in somebody's barnyard for 20 years and you restore it. So it's restored to the place of beauty and usefulness as it was at a time in the past. So here he speaks of the soul. This would be speaking of our inner nature, not our physical nature here, not our body, so to speak, although he does restore that at times as well and giving us good health. But he's speaking of the inner person. My soul is often restless. Sometimes it's tattered, sometimes it's beaten up, and I need restoration, and you do too. And so he says here, he restores my soul. He comes and restores me to a place of usefulness and a place where I should be, where I perhaps once was. And he guides me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. So he not only promises to restore our souls, but he guides us. He promises to guide us. And the path that he's guiding us on is a path of righteousness, which would imply that we're living as God wants us to live. It's the right path. It's a path that he says here for his name's sake. It honors him. It's not just a correct pathway. It is the right pathway. It's a righteous pathway that always leads to the glory of God. And so that's where he's guiding us. That's his promise. When we follow him, we follow our shepherd through the instruction, the teaching of his word, then we are being led in the right path, a pathway of righteousness that leads to the glory of God himself, which is how we as Christians would want to live. But this is happening because he restores our souls and because he guides us in this path of righteousness. Now, verse 4 talks about a very difficult pathway that he guides us through. He says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. There's a couple of different promises here, but we have the fact that the time comes when we go through dark valleys. It speaks of the valley of the shadow of death, but it doesn't speak of death per se. It doesn't say when you come to the point of death that he will walk us through that valley, although that could very well fit in form of application. But I think it's broader than that. I think he's talking about the fact that when we go through the darkest times of our lives, the difficult times, that he's with us. And he's there to walk us through those times and to guide us through those times. And so when we're at our lowest ebb, we're at our lowest point in life, we have the promise that we walk with him through that valley. And because of that, I fear no evil, for here's the promise, for you are with me. What a beautiful promise. You know, when things are going well and we don't seem to have a need for help from anybody, we get pretty self-sufficient and we think we've got it all put together. But when we hit one of those dark spots, when sorrow hits us, grief, heartache, struggles of various kinds, temptations, death, when those kinds of things approach us and hit us, we now realize our need. And often we're anxious and often we're fearful. But he says here, I fear no evil, not because the evil isn't present, but because the Lord has promised to be with us at that time. At that point in time, the Lord is with us in a very special and unique way. I fear no evil, for you are with me. Some have pointed out that in this verse, he changes pronouns. In verses 1 to 3, it's kind of a little bit more impersonal. He talks about what God does. He says he does this, he does that. But in verse 4, when we're in the valley of the shadow of death, the pronoun changes to second person personal. You are with me. You are with me now at this time. And your rod and your staff, they comfort me. If I have a need to be corrected, you will do it for me. If I have a need to be protected, you'll do that as well. And so because he's with us, even in darkest hours and most difficult times, because of that, is true, and that promise is true. Therefore, we know that he's going to be walking through with us through the valley of the shadow of death, whatever that might look like in your life and mine. What a joy, what a blessing, what a promise.